Peace, family. What's going on? Welcome to Broken Theory. Today we got a special guest, TENEO. What's good, man?
Hey, what's going on, man? It's nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, man. How's everything going with the music, man? Where you at with it?
Right now, I'm out in California, locationally, but where I'm at with music, it's been quite a long road. But as we all know, evolution comes in different stages of music experience. So right now, I just got back to the West Coast. Just did some traveling, went through some major life experiences, which always cause an impact on the music as well. So I've done a lot of collaborations lately. I've been collaboration heavy because I throw a conglomerate event called Concrete Lotus, and the point is community. So me just coming back into my community over here, some old friends and even some new ones. Been making some exploratory music, a little bit more R&B than usual. I definitely touched into that arena before. I like to live in the trap soul place outside of just boom bap. But yeah, I did some R&B stuff recently with a friend, great producer named K Press Play, and my homie since the new kid out here. Been doing like a little reggaeton R&B jam with him. But yeah, man, just exploring sonically. Did some really cool collabs. Had some massive experiences with producers and engineers I've gotten to work with, both from New York and LA.
Okay.
So it's been cool, man. It's been cool. Definitely an evolutionary phase musically, and that comes with its reflections in your life as well. So
Absolutely. Now, are you from California originally?
No. I'm from Atlanta originally. I was born in Florida, but at the age of 2 and beyond, I grew up in Atlanta.
Okay. What part of Atlanta?
I was out in Smyrna. Specifically, not many people have heard of it. It's North Atlanta, but I spent a lot of time in Decatur, Little Five Points, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
East Atlanta Village.
So, hey, let's talk about your origin story as far as like just starting out. How did you get started with music?
An amazing question, man. I haven't been asked that in a long time, but how I got started with music was candidly, I was a foster kid, so I was on the streets at 13, and having a little iPod was the biggest thing for me. And it wasn't even an iPod; it's like a Walkman or whatever, right? Having little headphones, and so I was skateboarding on the streets since the age of 12, 13, and just in the middle of the night where it's all calm and empty out in the streets out there, like on 285, I would skateboard down Windy Hill to the 7-lane little stretch, and it's completely empty at 3, 4 in the morning. And it allowed me to get into this really ethereal place when it comes to songwriting. And at an early age, I experienced like the mental and spiritual, and again, ethereal place that music was able to take me to because of what I was going through. And I allowed myself to live in that dimension, and really, really loved, the lyrics that would be kind of a little bit, I want to say abstract, and they would still impact you, if you allowed yourself to go to that space artistically. So it had a massive impact on me as a person. I started writing on little scrap pieces of paper at that age as well. So I was writing little verses and stuff, and it was a dream of mine, but I didn't know how to actualize it, so I just kept doing it. And I grew older, 17, 18, it's still with me. Writing is still with me, and I was diving into musicians, artists like Black Thought from The Roots, Mos Def, Talib, Black Star, Nas was one of my favorite rappers. And then there's a whole slew of guys called Def Junks from New York, Definitive Jugs, and a guy named Aesop Rock, if you've ever heard of that guy. He's real abstract with his pen, and him and Atmosphere were some of the biggest influences as well. And so really went down to that deep puddle dynamics. Shout out if anybody knows who that is. If you don't, look it up. It's one little tape. So I went down that route and just really loved my pen game. And I started to realize how intricate my pen was. And as I grew older, I was like 19, my homies were in reggae bands that just came together because homie played drums, homie played guitar, other person kind of sang. And you know, they were all homies. Instead of going to a concert one night, it rained out. So they were like, oh man, well, let's sit here and jam. And they formed a band. So that happened really organic. Just in my friend group. And so I was alongside with that. I was working security at hip hop clubs in Atlanta, in and out, working with the DJs, et cetera, just because I love music. I wanted to be around it and contribute to it in some way, shape, or form. And eventually thank you, man. Eventually I'm sitting there and I'm, you know, sharing some of my verses in the band practice with my homies reggae band. I'm in ciphers in the streets of Atlanta and Little 5 Points, outside on the back deck at the hip hop shows with the DJs, etc. Then I started getting invited on stage after people heard me freestyling and they heard some of the verses I was writing. They're like, okay, man, you're kind of nice. Come get on stage. And that's how it started, man. And then quickly, because of the friends I had made in the music industry or the local music scene and the contributions I put forth just as a friend or a supporter, like work, you know, putting up the trussing, working the door, just being a homie all around. And I was quickly able to get on a couple of features in this and third, and in a really, really underground, organic way, it just kicked off. And I just kept pursuing that and ended up working with other DJs, getting on other stages. I caught the fire, started getting a little established, played my own shows, put my own sets together with live bands, and just started removing the barriers of, oh, I really love this, to wait, man, like, I'm actually doing this. And so that's how it happened, man.
So let me ask you a question. Did you start performing before you started recording? Like, did you like write songs and do them live versus like recording them in the studio or at your house? How did that work?
Absolutely. That's a really intuitive question, man. Actually, yes, dude. I was performing for years and years and years before. I think I was performing for about 5 years before I ever stepped on a studio.
And that studio, was it your own, like that you like bought your own mic, or was it like the actual studio?
It was an actual studio. I had a friend who I worked with at a restaurant, and he saw, like, sometimes I would write a couple of bars on the whiteboard because I knew I was good, man. It was really poetic. It was dope stuff. And he's like, man, I keep singing these couplets and these like things you keep writing on the board and stuff like that. It is like just out of nowhere, right? Because some people put motivational quotes and I would put motivational bars. and he was like, okay, bet, man, come to the studio with me. And yeah, it was his studio, and it was awesome, man. Because even when I was performing, half of it was freestyle. You know, I spent a lot of time in ciphers, and I had to be nice with it, man. You know, like, and that helped me put the effort forth and really elevate my game, because it was like, oh, this moment matters. Like, if I'm gonna step into the cipher, I better be all right with it. And
absolutely, you got to bring the fire.
You got to, man. You got to. It was hella ambitious of me, I'll be honest. But luckily, you know, I had it in me, and so I freestyled a lot starting out, and so I would put a couple of writtens together. But mostly my live performances were all from the cuff, mostly, you know, with a couple of verses here and there. But that was my experience starting out, and that's really been a strength for me throughout the years. So.
That's fire, man. So going from your homie studio, what was the journey like making music on your own? Like, I'm sure you had ideas that you wanted to get out. Did you always just go to your homies, or like, at what point did you start like getting your own gear and diving into it?
Amazing. Yeah, it's a really important question too. So shout out to Mr. Pia, by the way, from Atlanta, who brought me into his studios. So appreciate that. That was a Kickstarter. But for a while there, yeah, I worked with this producer. I thought, or I'd save up money and get studio time, because that's how I thought it went down. And then I started to realize, like, hey, I really do want to be self-reliant in this regard. Like, how can I take the next step? And so that was always it for me, even though like I kind of came from a different direction that a lot of people who get involved in music nowadays do. Very, very organic, and almost like was performing way before I was recording kind of thing, which is crazy. But I always wondered, like, after a while of it just occurring organically, me and up in these situations magnetically. And by the grace of the universe, I was like, okay, what can I do to get a little bit closer, to further empower myself? I need to do this, I need to do that. So I was gifted an interface and Ableton when I started performing at around like 19, 20, and I think around 25, 26, I was given an interface and sat down with Ableton for the first time. And to be honest, man, like, it was a combination between not understanding the equipment or the Ableton. I use Logic now, you know what I mean? We've come a long way, even though that's a whole different discussion. But it was cool because I was self-reliant, and I just sat there. And so I was able to find out a few components, and definitely was overthinking it looking back. But you know, I would start recording, and it was a weird transition coming from such a organic grassroots place with my writing, with my experiences, and then I'm sitting down in the studio, and it's like, because I started overthinking it, my approach became entirely different. And it was like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So since then, I've really tightened up. I mean, that was a long time ago. I'm 35 now, so that was like a decade ago, you know? Yeah. And so I kind of ignored it for about a year and a half, man. I was like, oh man, I don't know how to work this, dude. Like, super stubborn, you know? And ultimately, when I moved to Thailand was when, so I started, actually it was China right before that. When I moved to China, I got myself a complete Audio 6. I got myself a Audio-Technica AT2020. Like, I was doing research. Like, I researched, like, and that's where I learned about a lot of stuff, right? So that really, and then in hindsight, I wish I had empowered myself a lot quicker than that. Instead of, you know, I was in a, you know, I grew up homeless, you know, and I was in a very, like, almost outside looking in. I had a limited and barrier mindset off of, you know, maybe my poverty experiences, you know, and that kind of correlated. But once I started removing barrier after barrier and having just, you know, blessed experience after blessed experience, I was able to unlock a lot of my limitations. And we always fall back into that place sometimes, you know. But I had a psychedelic journey as well in my early 20s and, you know, most of my 20s. And that definitely contributed to me exploring a lot and redefining my life. And so through music, through my story being told in my music, and through all of those other things I just mentioned combined, it was such a transformative experience. So when I got to China, I know I'm a little all over the place. Appreciate you guys listening in. When I got to China, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do all this research. I was learning about, you know, monitors and having, you know, no EQ response, just really like flat monitors, flat sound monitors. Researched like 15 pairs of headphones, ended up with the Sennheisers, you know what I mean? Yep. Exactly. Researched all these microphones, all these DAWs. I'm like, okay, boom, boom. Let me custom tailor this to not only now my knowledge of the differences, you know, it's still limited knowledge. These engineers, much respect to the producers and engineers out there who just understand frequency and all that other stuff. That's great. Salute to you guys. But I equipped myself with enough knowledge to get myself using DAWs and recording myself proper. And then my music just evolved as well because, you know, common theme, more limitations were removed. You know, I went from Atlanta to California, cool. And I'm like, oh man, this is beautiful. And then started jamming with different artists and ending up on stages. And it was just a regular part of my life. And I still retained that bohemian element that I had in Atlanta as well. So boom, from California, went all the way to China. And I ended up 2 weeks later as a resident MC at a hip hop club in Hong Kong. Because I had a friend, crazy dude. I had a friend who was a guitarist and had met a drummer out there. And it was the drummer's birthday. And he knew I just got into town and that I was a hip hop artist because my homie spoke about it. Booked me for the show. I come through, play a set. The host is actually the host of the hip hop event too, the weekly. And he was like, hey man, I want you to slide through next week. Let's see what you're about. Let's see if you really got it like that. And I went there, debuted, and he was like, I would love for you to be a resident. And that's how it happened, man. And
that's fire.
Thank you, man. And between that and the the equipment that I had gotten and the knowledge I got, I just started really recording. Started, you know, I understood marketing and branding because I was doing that out in Cali. And branded my stuff, got my album art together, learned about licensing and registration. I caught the bug, dude. I caught fire, and I was like, okay, wow, I can actually step this up and step my life up, and I did, and that was a massively transformative, you know, experience and stuff.
No, that's nice, man. Like, and I've heard about, you know, psychedelics transforming other people's careers and lives and stuff, you know. How do you see your music evolving over the next few years?
Let's see. So, I can kind of speak about where I want to go, but as we all know, or some of us experienced, you know, it'll take you where it'll take you naturally. So, from where I started to where I'm at now, I think I want to reflect on that sonically before I talk about where I'm gonna go, because where we've come from, the trajectory is where we'll find like a trend or a pattern that will possibly help us dictate what direction we're headed in the future if it continues that way. So coming from, you know, conscious hip hop, boom bap, like I was really big into trip hop and, you know, turntablism and all that other stuff. I had a huge reggae influence because, you know, my friends that I was surrounded by, and I was just, you know, dub producers and this, that, and third. So very soulful, conscious, boom bap origin with a lot of, lyrically, I was like, when I say conscious, it was a mixture between Talib and a little Immortal Technique, I'm not gonna lie.
Wow.
You know, yeah, man. Definitely was feeling that type of way at the beginning, and then it transformed and had a little lo-fi elements in there, you know, some touches of the heart, really poetic type elements. So went from boom bap, and then I evolved. I did some dubstep features, did some reggae features with some friends, and then got into a trap soul spot, you know. Really was always felt that type of way. Always listened to R&B ever since an early age, man. It was huge on me, but I never thought that I had the vocal chops for R&B, but I knew that I had the emotional intelligence and experiences in my relationships to be able to tap into that place. And so, because I started off, I didn't know what 4 bars was. I didn't know tonality, you know, like any of that stuff. It just always came from, you know, the gut, man, and the soul. And so now I can, you know, more in tune with, you know, the vocal elements and a lot of the, obviously, you know, the songwriting techniques. But at that point, I was just feeling it, both of my experience of that style of music and like what I felt were the nuances that defined that place, that lane, and, you know, and things like that nature. So got into trap soul, real smooth. I just knew that could exist in a deep place with vocals. And I just kind of slowed down my rapping, didn't try to fit, you know, 20 syllables into a bar anymore. And
yeah, because it's a different genre, so, you know, you gotta approach things differently.
Exactly, man. And so I went down the trap soul place. I always wanted to let my heart on my sleeve side of myself shine through my music. And then I, you know, I've collaborated in a lot of different ways. I sonically explored myself instead of staying in the tried and true, you know, boom bap place where I just really know how to exist. I was like, let me evolve as a songwriter, not just a bar heavy rapper, you know. Everyone's like, yeah, everyone's like, yo, your bars are dope, like, you know. But a lot of people are just like, oh man, this is a lot. And I thought that was a testament of my abilities. You know what I mean? I thought that's how I expressed my greatness at my craft. And then I evolved. And I heard what people were saying, took that feedback into account, and I'm like, wait, let me write songs, dude. A lot, like, and that's what I started getting into. Arenas, I didn't really think. I was like, oh, I didn't think I was a songwriter. I thought I was just a backpack rapper type guy, you know, that just really had the sauce. And so I evolved in that arena. So that's where I'm at right now. I think that, dude, I've got a couple really nice club songs, and I just tried it all, man. I tried it all, and I really surprised myself continuously. And every time that I wrote a song where I was like, wow, I didn't know I had that in me, I was like, wait a second. If I keep doing it, then how is it not in me?
Mm-hmm.
And so with just my mental limitations, shout out to mental limitations, continued to dissolve, man, one by one, and I allowed myself to grow in this life. And that was cool. So I think I'll probably spend some time in the near future in maybe like a lo-fi place, something I've done it a little bit before, I kind of want to get into a more positive arena with my music, man. I've told some stories. I've told some heartbreak stories. I've had some songs that are all about some smooth talk and some good days and some this, that, and the third, you know. But I think I want to go into like kind of like Sunlight in the Garden lo-fi a little bit, maybe like four or six songs of that, put those together. I just want to exist in that place creatively for maybe a season, maybe a month or two. Probably spend more time in the R&B and trap soul place, just because sonically and genre related, I think that I do exist really well. I've written some songs that are unreleased. Shout out 500 unreleased songs.
Who are some of your biggest music influence, and how have they impacted your sound?
Beautiful. Originally, like I said, Black Thought, Mos Def. Even still now, I feel like those are underlying contributors. But I want to say I'm a big fan of like Brian Trey, Bryson Tiller, people in that arena. I really rocked with Jack Harlow and his early 2 albums. But you know, where he's gotten now, I really respect. But it was just him sonically in the first 2 albums when he was super young. I really liked his. It was like a midnight, 85 BPM, like cruising with the windows down type sonics, and just with his beats and his subject matter. And so I really like to exist in that place. People, when they hear my songs, a lot of my songs, they're like, man, I've heard this so many times, and I know I'm getting off topic. I've heard this so many times where people be like, oh man, your music is like smoking a blunt at 2 a.m. with the windows rolled down, driving on the streets and shit like that. And I was like, I've literally heard that same phrase from so many people.
What song would you say is like that vibe, pretty much? Like a song that anybody could go listen to that gives them that vibe automatically?
Okay, perfect. I would say it was a freestyle song that I did. It was one take. It was called Burner Phones, aptly named.
Is it on all platforms?
It is on all platforms. My artist name is TENEO, so Burner Phones, you can find it everywhere, man. But I'm about to release a lot of music, and you're gonna be able to see and hear what I'm talking about. So Burner Phones, it touches on that. It's definitely that vibe. But I've got songs that aren't even named yet that I've been performing live for about 4 or 5 months. A lot of the stuff I just wrote, and yeah, you're seeing a trend there. I wrote a lot of songs in Colombia. I just lived in Medellin for 8 months. I was out there throwing shows, collabing with artists, stuff like that, just meeting a lot of people. And a lot of the music I wrote down there was some 2 a.m. stuff, and it's definitely got that ethereal vibe, and I really loved it. So
nice.
I have my other release. My most recent release was a song called Deja Vu that I wrote in San Diego a couple of years back when going through a breakup, and I ate some mushrooms, and I was at this club with a homie, and this other girl I knew, she was there, started dancing with me and whatever. I was like, man, even though I knew I was like breaking up with homegirl, I was like, man, I don't want to do this right now. You know what I'm saying? So I went back to the pad and put a beat on, and it's called Deja Vu. And I released it on 2/22 recently. 6 months ago is my most recent release. I have some stuff coming out very soon. I'm about to upload some stuff. You know what? I'm gonna upload some stuff today, man. I got you. I'm gonna do it today, right after this episode, just because I'm saying it right now.
That's what's
and
up.
Your boy's going through it. So music is medicine, man. So I need to stop holding on to my stories that I need to share with other people and share these.
They don't do no good on the hard drive, bro. That's one thing that I realized. You know what I'm saying? And the sooner you get them out into your fans, into the world, the sooner that the algorithm could kind of find who that listener is that needs to hear that song. You know what I'm saying? Like, the
Exactly,
algorithm
man.
is a different type of thing that like wasn't around back in the days. Now you can make a song and it could pop 2 years from now just from slowly spreading. You know what I mean? How do you
Exactly. And
handle
if they don't know it
creative-
exists.
Yeah, exactly. How do you handle creative blocks if you ever get those?
What I'll do is I will put myself in places, ultimately, you know what I mean? Sometimes my creative blocks, they coincide with moments in my life naturally. And so I'll kind of ride the wave of whatever I'm going through, and I'll put myself in good company or inspirational situations, you know, surround myself with other homies, go to studio sessions. And it's crazy because I'll sit down, if I have a creative block, can't write a song, but then I'll go to a studio session of a homie, or I'll go to a jam. I like to go to some studio jams that we organize sometimes. And then I'll just start freestyling and it'll be crazy. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh man, what the heck? But what I'll do is I'll put myself in the situations the scenarios, the environments that I know can bring that out of me or put it into me. You know, fill my cup up in other ways. Sometimes I'll maybe take a break from, you know, maybe I'm smoking too much, or, you know, I'm not working out enough, or I'm not taking care of my body and mind enough. And so I'll turn into my health and my skill sets, and I'll go back to the origin. I'll go back to the gym, man. I'll, you know, metaphorically and realistically, like, I'll just go back to maybe writing 2 bars, or just listening more closely to the music I'm listening to. Just a long list of things to try to get myself back, my energy back and my mentality back, dialed back in.
Absolutely. If you could say one thing to your younger self before starting music, what would you say?
Believe in yourself and don't let the opinions of others hold you back.
Absolutely. That's dope. How do you deal with criticism?
I used to receive it very, very openly, and I still do, but the way that I absorb it is a lot different nowadays. And the reason I said that before about what would I say to my younger self is because the people who were discouraging me at that time are still exactly where they were, and I'm leaps and bounds in different dimensions that I never even thought I would exist. I had so much respect for other people and love for other people that I would inflate their position, and you know, really, you know, I thought, oh, I was the outside looking in. I thought like, oh, you know, I came from this and everyone else is more established. Obviously they know more than me, you know what I mean? But that wasn't the case, man. And to listen to your intuition. So how do I receive other people's criticism is, at this day and age, I consider where it's coming from. I also weigh it against my own knowledge and experiences. However, one thing that I've always tried to keep in mind, and this is a slippery slope, it's a really hard thing to balance, but what do I not know? Like, of course, there's something I don't know. And so don't allow that to turn into doubt, and don't allow that to allow yourself to be, you know, ultimately manipulated or negatively influenced by the opinions of others, because you have to know what you know and be true in who you are, but also stay open-minded to the perception of others that will allow you to grow into a better person of yourself. But definitely take your time with the information, weigh that information rationally, and don't just openly accept all criticisms from others, because that's a bad habit.
Yeah, nah, for real. You know, your insecurities could lead to you taking advice you don't need to be taking. You know what I mean? So you got to make sure you check the source on, you know, where you're getting that advice. What advice would you give to up and coming artists trying to make a name for themselves?
I would say that definitely do your studies and read actual literature on the music business. Speak to people, even if that's if that's investing in consultations, but make sure you do the homework on the individual you're doing a consultation from.
Real quick, I don't want to cut your wisdom real quick. I just want to, since you said reading, I want to give out a little gem just in case anybody wants to grab this book and wants to, you know, read up on anything that they need to know. It's by Donald Passman. Everything you need to know in the music business. It's the 11th edition. They just came out with a new one, I guess, this year. Definitely check that out. Grab that book. My bad, I didn't mean to cut you off, man. I just wanted to throw a resource out there for people that wanted to know how they could do that without anybody there. Yeah.
1000%. I think that was a book that popped in my head when I was talking about the literature. So that's perfectly timed. And absolutely, everyone should look into that book. So yeah, definitely educate yourself, empower yourself, understand exactly what it is. But this is most important. Remember why you got into music in the first place. Allow yourself to maintain that level of energy while you're existing in the music business or the local music scene, trying to get booked, stressed because you don't have enough money to get that next recording session. Empower yourself, get your own equipment, teach yourself everything. Don't overstress yourself with spending too much money on the wrong things, which can easily happen in this industry. Take your time and always enjoy the process. Enjoy every song you write, pour your heart into it, and allow that to stay true to yourself. And enjoy the reasons why you got started in music, while simultaneously being smart about how you put yourself out there. And it takes time, but it takes less time when you do it right. So much love.
Would you say that you need a team to start? And if you don't have a team, how would you build one if you had to start from nothing?
Okay. I think that having a team definitely helps. From where I came from, I learned a lot of stuff on my own. So that allows me to teach others at this point in time, which I do a lot of artist development, do a lot of leadership and seminars and work for other artists in their projects. Some pretty notable. And if you don't have a team, then there's a community always. No matter where you're going, no matter what it is you're into, there's other people who are into the same thing. So find a way to get in the rooms with them, your peers even, network laterally, not even, climbing a ladder. Just the people right next to you, to your left and your right, your peer group. So research in your area where people are doing what you love to do. Go there, meet them, and build friendships and partnerships and trade knowledge, trade experiences, and trade skill sets, man.
Absolutely. That's the quickest way to get your own team, man, because people value genuine people and genuine relationships, you know what I mean? Where one hand wash the other, both hands wash your face. They're just 100%. Always mutually beneficial, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well said.
I appreciate you coming on this podcast, man, and, kick it with me and introduce yourself to the rest of the world. Is there anything else that you want to say before you leave? Any projects you're working on that's coming out soon?
Yeah, man, absolutely, I would. So I actually run a distribution company under a guy named Max Goose called California Distribution. My team, Miles Goose and Ryan Wallace, we love to lead artists because we started as artists ourselves. So I also have my brand Concrete Lotus, which started off as a clothing brand in Asia that I started, but now is a community hip hop show that lifts others up to their potential and creates a positive environment and a high level degree of production value for people to exist in. And my name is TENEO. You're gonna be hearing music come out from me single after single starting today. I'm actually uploading right after I get off this podcast because I said I would, and I'm a man of my word. So much love to everybody. Pay attention to the music. It's TENEO, Concrete Lotus, peace forever.